Hey guys, welcome back to the Black Hills and Eastern Railroad. Today we're at the workbench taking a look at the GMD SD40-2 produced by Bowser some years ago. This will be the first of a three-part series that I'm going to do on the GMD SD40-2. This one being a review format of the Bowser's work here representing this locomotive. The second will be a in-depth review on GMD versus EMD locomotives, the GMD being those manufactured in London, Ontario by GMD, and then of course the USDM locomotives manufactured in LaGrange, Illinois. And then we'll finally follow up the series on Friday with a DCC and sound installation by Soundtracks in this locomotive here. So let's go on to taking a look at what you get with this HO scale model from Bowser. Hate to break it to you guys, but this will not be an unboxing video here. I've already taken this out of the box and done the DCC installation, so we're kind of filming this out of order. But I wanted to take an in-depth look at what's in the box and especially a close look at what's on the locomotive. In the interest of full disclosure, I did purchase this locomotive for my own use and added to my collection, so I do intend to use this on the Whitewood line on the Black Hills and Eastern Railroad to interchange with Burlington Northern up at Deadwood. That's the idea, and I needed another engine to run with my 6359, which you may remember from a DCC installation video that I did at the very beginning of this channel, the very first video out there. If you guys want to go back in my post history and take a look, you can see that. But this was a little bit different experience because this was more of a plug-and-play type experience. So hold on for Friday. We'll show you the installation video of that. Anyway, let's take a look at this model. So I'll show you what comes in the package here in the packaging. This is not an unboxing video. Just wanted to run you through what you get with the packaging. So obviously the traditional paper box, and then the plastic wrap. This is one of those types of locomotives that Athearn are one of this type of packaging where the screws come up from the hard plastic in the shell, and then there's basically an open plastic area. There's been some various commentary about that, whether this works or not. There is some paint that is sloughed off of the detail parts on the top of the locomotive, so maybe not the best way. I would probably prefer to have just straight foam around the locomotive, but I guess whatever. Locomotives were made to run and be on the layout, not in the package. The only information or the only literature that came with the locomotive is basically just lube information. I believe the company recommends the ESU decoder. I'm not an ESU guy. I have nothing against it, but I wanted, well, I'm standardized on Soundtracks, so that's what I put in this engine. In any case, let's get on to the engine itself. So here we are with my handy-dandy Lazy Susan taking a closer look at this engine. And overall, the things that you first notice about this this production by Bowser, it is very nice. The lettering is very crisp, and the paint separation is also very sharp. That yellow versus the blue here, and then and then actually taking a look at the locomotive itself. We noticed that this is and I did look back in the history of this engine. The one this represents, it was actually manufactured in 1980. So this would represent a fairly late production SD40-2. So some things to point out about that. Bowser did get correct the corrugated radiator inlets here. That's the later style for sure. Starting in probably about 76, 77, EMD started, or EMD and GMD began to release SD40-, well, all their locomotives with radiator inlets, that style. And then going on to some of the Canadian-esque features here, you've got your Canadian-style stepwells on all four corners of the locomotive, separately applied grab irons here. You've got your aftercooler. I had to look this up actually, and that radiator part has come loose, or that part has come loose here, which I've noticed it doing quite a bit. And then back here on the rear end of the locomotive, what you see is the separately applied grab irons, Canadian style end handrails, cut levers, separately applied MU hoses, train line hose, all that stuff. The lift rings are present here. That's a CP style thing. The single sealed beam, rear backup light or rear headlight, kind of a Canadian feature. And then here a neat little thing on this locomotive that's a Canadian specific thing is I believe this plumbing here on top of the radiator section has to do with the air compressor, and there's something about an aftercooler. So after the air runs through the compressor, they're cooling it down by running it over the radiator section here. Air horn. This is another feature of the later production SD40-2s and all the EMD and GMD models from this point on. Basically, the silencer around the exhaust stack, and again, your radiator section or radiator inlets here mounted on the outside of the car body, what modelers refer to or rail fans refer to as the corrugated style radiator inlets, your sight glass for the water level, and again, your Canadian style step wells here on all four corners. Sinclair type antenna, wire windshield wipers, again, freestanding wire grab irons, square sand filler hatch, and then get zoomed in here a little bit on this, the Canadian style rock pilot. Get a little more light on that so you can see that. So there's not really a plow on this. There's more what they call a rock pilot. Brass sunshades on the cab, separately applied. Brass sunshades on the cab. Also metal lift rings along the roof line here. And there's even, my buddy operations manager Tim would be proud, there's a lift ring here along the side of the car body on the long hood, dust bin, and pretty much that's about it that I can see. Oh yes, on the front here, that iconic bell, there's a brass bell here, which is present on the as manufactured CP locomotive. Overall, I'd call this a beautiful locomotive. The labeling with safety labeling and warning labeling, very, very crisp and clear here. And then all the edges, the safety edges, the contrasting color, clear there, and that white stripe along the side sill there is also very crisp and clear. Fuel tank detail as well underneath here. Good fuel tank detail and red safety markings on the filler, the sight glass, and then that round plug there on the fuel tank. And I wanted to show you this, or I wanted to point out that Bowser does provide extra details. These are not rotating bearing caps here, but what they do is they have two different styles that you can represent where appropriate. This is the closed style, and they do have an open style that you can swap out for if that's what your particular prototype demands. Again, this bearing detail, end bearing detail here is what we're talking about. Overall, I'm super excited to add this locomotive to my collection. I'm glad we made the decision to put Tsunami 2 in it, with along with the other DM&E engine that is going to be on the layout here. I recommend it if you are thinking about picking up anything a Canadian manufacturer, need any CP engines or anything that CP has handed down secondhand. This is a great looking and great running engine. So a particular note about this exact unit, this was the only original SD40-2 of CP heritage that DM&E got. They got several CP units, but the vast majority of them, all but this one, were original straight SD40 models from GMD. And this one happened to be the only one that was original SD40-2, so much more modern than the other group of locomotives, but it was nice that Bowser picked this one up and chose to do this one. Otherwise, we wouldn't have any of the Canadian manufactured DM&E units. Bowser did at one time announce a straight SD40 from GMD, and they would have produced DM&E units in that line, but unfortunately they didn't get around to that, and that project was canceled. And this is the only DM&E Canadian-built production painted locomotive that we have in HO scale. So this is a specific moment that we'll pull the plug on this particular episode. Hope to see you back here for the GMD versus EMD comparison and contrast, and then finally at the end of the week for the ECC installation in this locomotive. If you like the content here, click that like button, subscribe for more, and hopefully, if I'm lucky, we'll see you in the next one.